Hey guys, I'm Sabirul Islam and welcome to another episode of Build Your Confidence on Stage. In today's episode, I'll be talking about why it's important to open a speech with hooks. So you may be wondering or asking the question, so Sabirul, what is a hook and why do I need it? Well, have you ever been to a presentation and you're listening to someone on stage and the first thing they actually do is start introducing themselves, even though the MC has already done it. They'll say, oh, I'm Sabirul Islam, and they start thanking everyone. They thank the MC, they thank the special guests for attending, for inviting them onto the stage. My advice to you is actually avoid all of that, because you're there, you've been invited, you have some sort of knowledge that you've been invited to share with the audience, so you do so from the get-go. Now, what is actually a hook and how do you use it? Well, a hook is something you use to capture audience attention from the get-go. And usually, by certain research done, you have to do that within the first 7 seconds in order to engage the audience into your message, into your speech. So there are three types of hooks that I'll actually be talking about in this video. And first and foremost, it's what's called a statement hook. Secondly, it's what's called a shock hook. And thirdly, I'm talking about curiosity hooks. The first hook I'll be sharing with you is what's called a statement hook. So what is a statement hook? It's usually a very bold, opinionated statement you make that is often very much personal to you. Your thoughts, your ideas which you're sharing. And a good example I can give you is this. For instance, your audience is a bunch of university students who are going to be graduating in, let's say, a couple of months' time. You're coming up on stage and you tell them, I believe that a university degree in today's society is deemed worthless. That's gonna shock, that's gonna raise eyebrows, but that's what they're gonna do is grab their attention so that they're hooked in, because they want to listen to as to why you've made that statement, because it's a very bold, it's a very rich, and it's a very opinionated statement that I've just made. So you back that up. So that's crucial. You can't just make a statement, grab an attention, and not back it up with the reasons as to why you've made that statement. So let's be very clear on that. So that's one way to hook an audience attention. A second statement hook you can actually use as a good example is coming up on stage and saying that you as a young individual have the ability to change the world. Now, that's definitely going to catch attention because people often are very skeptical about what they can and can't do. So who are you to be able to come up on stage and say that you have the ability to change the world? So you back it up with your story, your message, and the why as to why you've made that statement. So that's what it's all about when it comes to statement hooks. Secondly, let's talk about shock hooks. Now, shock hooks are something which often society would not expect. Now, for instance, if I was to give you an example, I got fired at the age of 13 and it was the best moment of my life. People will be raising an eyebrow, questions already flooding in their head thinking, fired and the best moment in their life doesn't really add up and weigh up. But the thing is, they're already tuned in. They want to know that why factor, the message behind how getting fired can often be the best thing in their life. Another example is, I got rejected by 40 publishers and that ended up being the best moment of my life. Again, getting rejected by 40 publishers and being the best moment in my life. How? Because then I go and tell the story in terms of how I wrote my book, I self-published it because I got fired and because nobody believed in my idea, but I had that belief and courage to actually go and do it myself. So I back it up with that story. So a shock hook can be really entertaining and really engaging if you know how to use it well, and obviously the tone, the vocal use, the body language all plays a factor in that. So you have the first 7 seconds to be able to hook an audience in. So I would suggest trying playing around with the shock hook to see how you can actually open the eyes of the audience, get them in and tuned in from the get-go. Finally, I want to share with you what's called a curiosity hook. Now, a curiosity hook creates a whole new atmosphere in the room. Audience immediately gets tuned into the idea of a story that you're going to share, and as it is with most hooks, they're very personal. So one of the hooks that I often use, and you've heard it in one of my previous videos, is a question. When you leave this world, what will you be remembered for? And then there's a pause. That moment of silence creates that element of curiosity. If I made that statement as my opening statement of my speech, it creates a whole wave of curiosity. People want to know why I made that statement. And then it gets them tuned in, and then I back it up with the story, with the message, and the why factor. Another way I could open up my speech that you might want to leverage off is, here's this. I'm going to share with you a story about my cousin who fired me, and why one piece of advice he gave completely changed my way of thinking. Again, you're creating a sense of tension, atmosphere in the room just by the way you're presenting and sharing to create that level of curiosity. So leverage off it, whether it's your statement hook, your shock hook, or curiosity hook, and try and make the most of that, because within the first 7 seconds, that's exactly how much time pretty much people give you to be able to grab their audience attention. So what you want to do is, if you're using hooks, you can also use them throughout the speech as well. Even if you feel like at some point down the line you want to hook, especially if you have multiple stories to share, or if you have a rather long speech in which you're delivering, you don't want to just hook them in just once at the beginning and forget about the rest of the speech. So I would say leverage of hooks in the beginning of the speech as a must. Then you can incorporate that throughout the speech itself. And just to wrap up today's episode, I just want to tell you some do's and don'ts. What you don't want to do is go on stage and say, "Hi, I'm Sabirul Islam. It's a pleasure to be here." Boring. Because you've already been introduced and they expect you to be delighted that you're there. What you also want to avoid is coming up on stage, and as I said at the beginning of this video, we're starting thanking everyone. It's an absolute pleasure that you're here, and you start thanking the MC for introducing you, start thanking the guests, the audience for being there. They don't want to hear that, honestly speaking. So avoid that. Another thing you want to avoid is introducing yourself once again, because the MC has already done that. So you go on stage and say, "Hi, I'm Sabirul Islam. I'm a motivational speaker. I'm an author. I'm a so-and-so." People are already bored. You just go into your speech, whether it's with a statement hook, whether it's with a shock hook or a curiosity hook, or any other types of hooks that are out there. Just leverage off that so you can maximize the audience attention within the first 7 seconds. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Build Your Confidence on Stage, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Thanks guys for watching this episode. Now, if you're serious about kickstarting your career in public speaking, I'm launching the Build Your Confidence on Stage book and online modular public speaking course, where I will teach you the 4 pillars of public speaking, which include the speaker's psychology, the principles of public speaking, the performance masterclass, and the profession of a public speaker. So if you're keen on harnessing your public speaking skills and turning your passion for speaking into a lifestyle profession, then register your interest now by visiting www.buildyourconfidenceonstage.com. The link is below, and I look forward to supporting your public speaking learning journey. See you next week.